2,500 years ago, this busy city was the site of one of the 7 wonders of the world. Welcome to Bodrum! Bodrum in ancient times was called Halicarnassus, and in relatively recent years it's seen an awful lot of changes, from a quiet fishing and sponge diving centre to one of the busiest tourist destinations in Turkey, seeing millions of tourists every year. Other parts of the Bodrum Peninsula have become tourist destinations too. Gumbet, Bitez, Turgatrez, Gümüşlük and Yalıkavak are all very popular tourist destinations in their own right. And just outside of Bodrum there are some huge all-inclusive hotels too. But if you look carefully on the internet, you can find these beautiful little boutique hotels with fantastic styling and that have been built with love and care. I like it. Look at this.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Oh, wow. You can go film, I'm going to stay right here.
I worked here in Bodrum in 1988 and 1989 and in Gumbet, and it was a really noisy, busy place then. On one side of the castle is a small beach, and on this side is the marina. And all along the road of the marina are some really lovely restaurants. It's funny, as soon as you walk down the back streets, you see that in 30 years nothing has really changed, and it's actually nice to see that some of the old pensions are still here that were here 30 years ago. Trudy's found her favourite shop. Nice colour. 100%. Bodrum's renowned for its exclusive shops, and people travel from all over the peninsula just to go shopping there. I can assure you, in the middle of the summer when everything wakes up, this street is absolutely packed, and at night time you can hardly move down it.
There's nightlife to suit everyone here, with many rooftop restaurants.
Of course, it's the nightlife here that attracts most young people to come to Bodrum or Gumbet. Unfortunately, we can't show you that nightlife at the moment because we're in a lockdown situation here in Turkey. But when everything opens up, we'll be back to do another film.
In recent years, the Catamaran has been one of the most popular discos.
Just to the back of me used to be a discotheque called the Halikarnos Disco years ago, and it was very famous, and in fact it was probably the best disco I've ever seen in my life. It had water spouts outside the front in the sea, and it looked like a Roman temple or Colosseum inside, and it used to shoot lasers across the bay to hit mirrors which were fixed on the castle. It used to be amazing. And this is all that's left of the Halikarnos Disco. Merhabalar, kolay gelsin. İyi, sağ ol. Bu başka bir disco olacak değil mi? Güzel bir club. So it's going to open up again as the Jolly Joker Club.
So Bodrum has a great nightlife, good restaurants and shopping, but
Its pretty white houses are dominated by the fantastic castle in the centre of the town. Wow, that's a big one. Wow, imagine one of those hitting you.
this is not just an incredible castle from the 15th century, it's also the home of the Bodrum Museum of Underwater Archaeology, which includes finds from ancient shipwrecks, and one in particular is from the 11th century, and its cargo of glass, wine and gold travelling from Syria to Constantinople.
It seems like the higher up the castle you go, the more valuable the artifacts become. So before tourism kicked off in the 1970s, Bodrum's main industry was fishing and sponge diving. There are still fishermen going out, of course, but the sponge diving is now banned. A popular writer who spent most of his life here in Bodrum, called Cevat Shakir Kabaağaçlı, that's a mouthful, isn't it, who became known as the Fisherman of Halikarnos. Halikarnos Balıkçısı wrote about Bodrum all through his life, and in the 1960s he started bringing his influential friends on sponge diving boats called gulets and showing them this beautiful coastline. With the knowledge of a well-known archaeologist, historian and translator called Asra Herhat, It was the start of the famous blue cruises for this region, and a major factor in starting the first international tourism here in Turkey.
Nowadays, of course, there are daily boat trips, private hire and weekly blue cruises on an assortment of these lovely Gullet boats.
So there's a port and customs here in Bodrum, and it's a great way of getting over to the Greek islands, especially the island of Kos, which is only 12 miles away. And in normal times there's also a hydrofoil to Rhodes. And if you're driving, there's also a ferry boat that takes you to Dacia.
On the opposite side of the castle from the marina, there are two small sandy bays.
This area is covered in lovely little restaurants, and all the tables and chairs are out the front here. It looks really pretty. Because it's such an exclusive place, of course, there's been a few wealthy and famous people who've lived here in the past. And one of the most famous ones was a guy called Sekai Moran, who was a famous singer in Turkey. Everybody knows Sekai Moran. And he died a few years ago, but he left a fantastic legacy and also a fabulous museum. Sekai Moran was a singer, composer, songwriter, actor and poet. And he designed most of his own clothes too. He was a very flamboyant guy and reminded me of Liberace and Elton John. He became a household name in Turkey and was loved by the people. On his death, he gave all his wealth to the Army Fund for Disadvantaged Soldiers and a foundation for education.
He died in September 1996, and throughout his life he produced hundreds of cassettes and records and won many awards. His songs weren't my choice of music. I preferred songs by Barış Manço, Candan Erçetin or Sezen Aksu, and it's not possible for me to play a clip of his music due to copyright.
And he was in quite a lot of films as well, especially in his younger days. And we all know what a flamboyant guy he was. Unfortunately, he couldn't be open about his sexuality, and he never was. Sekai Moran was so loved by the people, and he used to sing classical Turkish music and arabesque songs. But nothing was written much about his love life, so if anyone knows anything about his love life, please comment below. The huge castle in the centre of the town, which was built in the 15th century by the Knights of St. John. But 2,500 years ago, an even more impressive building was here, the tomb of Mausoleum, which was so grand that it was known as the first mausoleum and one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. So this is the site of one of the ancient wonders of the world, the Mausoleum of Halikarnassus. And if you can imagine that there was a building in this square that was 50 meters high, 150 feet. And it was a tomb to King Mausoleum, who was married to his sister from 2,500 years ago, near enough. Most of this building was destroyed in earthquakes, and most of the stone from this massive structure was taken and used to build the castle with.
They made some really lovely pieces, but the best pieces were taken to the British Museum.
Obviously we've been filming this in a lockdown situation, so it doesn't give the true flavour of Bodrum, so we'll have to come back. I'd like to tell you a little personal story. I worked here in Bodrum in 1988 and 1989 for tourist companies, and at one point I got very ill. I had a chest infection, and the doctor here said I'd got Zaturi, which is pneumonia. And he said, but you need an x-ray. But they hadn't got the facility to give an x-ray at the hospital here then. It was a very small hospital. They couldn't even treat a broken leg or arm. So he sent me to Milas, which is about 30 miles away. And he said, this is the address you've got to go to get your x-ray. Okay, I said. So off I went on the bus at the time. And when I got to this, what looked like a normal house, I went in and the guy greeted me in Turkish and said, oh, come on in, come on in. He said, stand up against this plate and just keep really still and hold your breath when I say. And he went out of the room and he came back with a little box, which was a lead box, and he had a watch on. And he said, okay, hold your breath. And he opened the box up, and I was looking directly at what looked like kryptonite, a radioactive isotope of some sort. And he counted to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, closed the box up, and I was horrified to think that this was going to give me an x-ray. But what was really ironic is that 20 minutes later he gave me a perfect negative x-ray, which was incredible. And I took it back to the doctor, and yes, I had got Zaturi, pneumonia, and then I was treated for it, of course. But it's just one of those things that happens in your life, and one of the stories that I like to tell everybody. Of course, there's a beautiful government hospital here now, and there's several private clinics and hospitals too. So that's it from Bodrum.
Don't forget to like,
Subscribe,
and hit that notification bell so you don't miss where we go next.
Thanks for watching.